Hello and welcome to another edition of Florida Sportsman Magazine Action Spotter Podcast. Hey, I'm Captain Rick Riles. We're going to have a good time tonight. We're going to travel around the state of Florida. First, we'll make a quick trip out to Bill Fish Paradise and check in, find out what's going on in Costa Rica. We'll come back to the northeast corner of Florida. We'll work our way down the east coast, up the west coast, through the Keys, check it all out, find out what's biting this week. And golly, I've got a question for the guys too. This seems to me to be the windiest spring and summer we've ever seen. Is that part of climate change? I don't know, but I do know some guys that will know if they've made as many trips this year as they generally do in June, and I think I know the answer in advance because I know up in northeast Florida, we've had a steady northeaster now for a week. It just doesn't usually happen in June. So sit back. Let's find out where the action is. We're going to get it started with a quick trip to Costa Rica, and our trip out there, of course, will be brought to you each and every week, along with all of our trips, by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. By Shimano, bringing people and nature together. By Tournament Master Chum, the best chum on earth. By Nosara Paradise Rentals, your dream vacation. By DOA Lures, the unfair advantage. And by Young Boats. You want the finest in flat spay and offshore hybrids? You need to check out youngboats.com. Okay, it's time to start our little soiree with a dream trip out to Nosara, Costa Rica, where I would be right now if I didn't have to work for a living. But now I'm there in my mind, and I'm talking to my buddy Craig Sutton. Craig, how are you?
I'm good, Ricky. Real good, sir.
Good, good. What are you hearing? What are you hearing from the boys on the water out there?
Man, just go check that blog, brother, man. Full color. Big marlin week. I think we had a total of 7 marlin. We missed probably another 7 or 8. We had a couple boats that had 2 and had a shot at a third one. And Jim Maydell from St. Augustine did a grand slam one day.
How about that?
We had 2 or 3 of them look like they're 450, 500-pound marlin, and, you know, nice yellowfin mixed in. No giant. Jim Maydell, after he caught that one marlin, I think it was on Wednesday or Thursday last week, he said he lost about a 100-plus pound yellowfin right at the boat. Come unplugged on him. But just, you know, for every one of those 100-plus pounders we catch, we probably lose 6 or 7.
I got 2 words for anybody that wants to fuss about the fish they lost after they caught a grand slam. Shut up.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. We don't want to hear from you.
I know. Well, Jim Maydell is kind of an icon in St. Augustine. He's got lots and lots of experience on it. But he got some nice fish, you know. The fishing was real good. We got one mahi that was not that big monster slabs like we've been catching earlier in the year, but it looked like it was probably 37, 38 pounders. And a bunch of good ones, you know, but, you know, I caught some real nice roosters last week too. And another client had one rooster and then lost the second one same day. So it's good variety of fishing down there right now. And it's amazing how strong it stayed this year. It really has. And I think it's just going to get better and better as we get closer to the end of August.
Now, what species made up Jim's Grand Slam?
2 marlin and a sail.
Were they different kind of marlin?
Oh, yeah. I assume. I haven't gotten the exact details from him. He sent me a text one night afterwards, and I asked him if there were 2 different species. But it looked to me like one was a blue and one was black, but I'm not 100% sure. But irregardless, pretty good fishing.
Yeah, that's pretty good fishing. You're right. Yeah. You're absolutely right. Craig, I look forward to only get better from now until September. I'm counting the days till my son and I'll be out there, and I tell you what, we're more than ready. As always, Craigie, we appreciate it. Please tell me we can get the report next week.
Absolutely. Look forward to it, Ricky.
Thank you, buddy. Craig Sutton from Nosara Paradise Fishing. Now let's hit Northeast Florida and check in with Captain David Voorhees. David, how are you?
Hey, Ricky, I'm doing pretty good, buddy.
You know, you're an inshore fisherman, but you're such a student of the game and pay so much attention. David, I don't think I've ever remember a windier 6-month period than the first 6 months of this year.
You know, it's funny you say that, but today we were talking, I was talking to my clients, and telling them that, man, I'm so glad I don't fish offshore because these guys have been shut down for over 2 weeks because of the ocean's conditions and the northeast winds that have been blowing. And I've been really blessed, Rick. I really, and I count my blessings every day. I've been able to get most of my charters in this month, which is really good. And, inshore here, we get some windy days, we get some bad weather conditions, but this year I've been very, very lucky.
Yeah, I got to tell you, an old charter boat captain told me long ago, if you're going to run offshore charters out of Jacksonville, you're going to make money from Memorial Day to Labor Day, and you're going to battle weather the rest of the time. Well, I got news for you, Cap. Memorial Day's been gone a long time, and it's been pretty tough to make a living ever since then.
Yeah. And I mean, like I said, I have been blessed, but let's get to the fishing part. The conditions here have not been favorable. It's been a tough week. The only thing that's been on our side is the fact that we have such a variety of species around here. If you get caught up on one species of fish here, be it the redfish, the sea trout, the flounder, the sheephead or something, you can be gravely disappointed on so many days. So you have to be versatile, and you have to be able to switch from one species to the other. Like the old saying, when you get lemons, hey, make lemonade. But that's sort of what we've been getting this week. We've had a lot of rain, which has produced a lot of muddy water. The salinity is way, way down in certain areas, almost registering freshwater in some of the creeks. Northeast winds have picked up this week, so that's been interesting. The rain showers, however, we've been lucky. They've been occurring later in the day, and they seem to be out towards the 95 corridor. So we along the intercoastal have been lucky. We haven't been getting the storms, but we've been able to get our charters in early in the morning, and it's been a mixed bag, Rick. I can honestly tell you, the number of species I've caught this week has just been incredible. And what I've done is I've moved to different areas where I know one species might be a little bit more abundant, whether it be some of the whiting, the inshore whiting. Believe it or not, we have some unbelievable ones that I'm sort of just starting to learn about. We're actually caught this week a couple of 15 to 16 inch whiting, some of the biggest whiting I've seen in a while. The mangrove snappers just been unbelievable this week, and I've got several locations where they're just literally stacked up. Had a little girl today, and she got to watch her brother and her dad land a big redfish. Her dad got an oversized redfish. Her brother got a nice 26-inch red. We had a couple of good slots in there. So I said, I got a spot she's going to like, and I took her to the snapper spot. And we sat there, and we must have caught 20, 25 snappers. And some of them, Rick, were really nice. I'm talking, 13, 14-inch snappers. And she really got the hang of it once I started working with her. And we had a blast. We ended the day on that note with a lot of snapper, some oversized reds, some big reds. But I've been mixing it up, and you have to do that. I've seen sheephead this week, the black drum. You just have to really mix it up and not count on those redfish being where you want them to be this time of year.
I understand. That's outstanding. And I got to tell you, in my neck of the woods, we've seen an unusual number this year, David, of solid flounder. It's not unusual for us to see small flounder in the spring, but we've seen some stout ones in the last week or so.
Yes, Rick. I've been tempted to make it up into the river and hit some areas, but we've actually been seeing some pretty good flounders along the intercoastal. And some of the best tides that I've noticed is the top of that outgoing tide when these creeks start emptying out. On these sandbars, you'll find a lot of these flounder. And I'm with you, Rick. I mean, it is nice to see 3, 4, and 5 pound flatties.
Oh yeah. We're seeing September, October fish now, no doubt. All right, buddy,
Yep.
David. As always, we really appreciate it. I'm glad to hear that the storms, for the most part, it's a double-edged sword. The storms have been holding along 95 and not making it out to where they terrorize you guys. Well, the reason for that is because we've had a pretty stout northerly and northeasterly, particularly, wind that holds those storms back in. So I'd rather they just go away altogether and let us fish. But I appreciate it, Cap, and we'll make sure
All right,
we
Ricky. Talk to you next week, buddy.
look forward to it. Thank you, David. Our thanks to David Bories for a great Northeast Florida report where they're doing very well on flounder and redfish, and I'm awfully glad to see it. Now, let's pull down to East Central and find out what's going on from our buddy Jim Ross. Jimmy, how are you?
Doing great, Rick. How are you this week?
Outstanding. I tell you what, the weather's been tough up here. Is it? Have you had that northeaster down there?
We've had a little bit of the swell. The wind has been more east here, and so it has allowed us to get out and not get too beat up on most days. The main thing that I'm finding right now throughout the region is that guys that are going offshore are finding that the fish are moving around a lot, especially the king mackerel. They're moving from reef to reef from day to day, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of bait up and down the region right now. And I think the fish are just either transitioning through and trying to find the bait, which probably is up near you guys if there's some pogies up that way, or they're moving, trying to find something. Now, not sure what that something is, but they're trying to find something because they'll be on Pelican Flats one day, they'll be on the High Bar the next, they'll be all the way up on 8A the next, and so the king mackerel bite has been consistently moving throughout the region. So it's always been good somewhere someday, but not good in the same place 2 days in a row.
Gotcha.
The thing that has been good 2 days in a row is the mangrove snapper bite. Our mangrove snapper bite has been really strong, and the guys that are going back are consistently getting good numbers of big fish right now. And those fish are anywhere from 6 to 10 and sometimes even 11 pounds as they're chumming them up. And those reefs in 90 to 130 feet seem to be holding those fish best right now.
Let me ask you a question, Jim. Is your inshore mangrove snapper bite good too? Because our intercoastal guys up here are clobbering 12 to 15-inch fish.
A couple of weeks ago, it was, we talked about it a little bit, especially in the New Smyrna area. It was much better. I can't really say that Canaveral or Ponce Inlet has been seeing the numbers of mangroves that the guys in, Sebastian or Canaveral have been seeing the numbers of mangroves that the guys up at the Ponce Inlet area have seen over the past month. It seems like they're still okay, but they're waning a little bit, possibly moving in your direction.
Yeah, they seem to be. They seem to have really taken hold here. We're experiencing some fall fishing, which is strange. We've got solid size flounder, 3 and 4 pound flounder we never see in the springtime, and we've got some mangrove snapper that are September size already in June. So I don't know what's going on, but I guess we'll find out soon enough.
Most definitely. Back in the lagoon systems, the snook had sort of left the beaches a little bit for, especially the Sebastian Inlet area had kind of left the inlet and the beaches and kind of moved back inside around the Spoil Islands last week before. Now this week they're right back out there, and the guys that are actually fishing in the surf are picking up just as many as the guys at the inlets, and more so than the guys that are fishing inside.
I got you. Well, Jim, that's a great report. Have you heard anything from the blue water? Any news out there?
Scattered dolphin and wahoo, really not much to speak of. We just don't have bait. That's the crazy thing. Our beaches, like as an example, I fished Canaveral 4 days last week. From Canaveral, I fished Sebastian once and came north, and I had to run far enough that I thought on the next couple of days that I would go out of Canaveral and go south. Well, I consistently had to go farther and farther and farther south to find any kind of bait along the beach. And the only bait that I was really finding, other than a few pilchards here and there, was mainly glass minnows. No menhaden at all, just absolutely no menhaden. And the greenies and the pilchards that are normally big groupings of them, most of those seem to be farther offshore in 50 to 60 feet of water. We don't have them in along the coast where we typically have them this time of the year, where we're fishing the sharks and the tarpon in them, and the king mackerel in them, where we're within a mile of the beach or so. They're out 5, 6, 8 miles is where we're finding those bait pods.
Jim,
it's interesting that there's none along the beach.
I just really hate to give you the news on the beach and bait being on the beach. We're building a new Jack's Beach pier. We're going to have a new pier
Right.
from what Irma took from us. We may or may not have bribed the guys building that pier to stretch a chain link fence out 3 miles. That may or may not have happened, but for some reason we got plenty of pogies this year, and we're really sorry that you don't have any.
Yeah, we have absolutely none. It's eerie.
Yeah, they don't
that we
fit.
don't have them.
They don't fit through a chain link fence, Jimmy.
Yeah,
just so you know.
They don't do that. They don't do they? No.
I think
we have very, very little bait, and it's in fact, I've got guys from Ponce calling me, asking me if they're down here. I've got guys from Sebastian calling me, asking me if they're up here, and I'm like, no. I wish I could tell you yes, but they're just not.
That's funny. Jim, are we seeing fewer menhaden every year? I don't think so. I mean, I think they just kind of move around.
I think you guys have still got a fairly consistent fishery for them. The last 3 to 5 years, we've definitely seen a decrease in the numbers of fish and the duration that they're staying here.
I'll be darned.
It's interesting to watch the bait just kind of slowly disappear year by year. But it's one of those things where, we might have another year next year where there's so much bait that we can't stand it. So, which is hopefully the case.
Jim, I talked with our friend Kevin Dean from Tournament Master Chum, and they are heavily regulated as to how many they can take. They have to cut it off often from the harvest. So I would have to think that the population is being looked after and being taken care of. I just hope it's not trending down like so many fish populations we see.
Well, let's hope so, because that's the lifeblood of the ocean. Is one of the fish that you and I love best is, in fact, your nickname, the little Pogie,
You didn't have to share that with anybody.
From going way back.
You didn't have to share that with anybody. Those are bait. Those are bait fish that are the lifeblood of everything else that swims in the ocean. You're absolutely right. They really are. They're the start of the food chain for the kind of predators we want.
I'm hoping that we see a return to those to our waters here sometime real soon.
I do too, but for your comment, we may talk to you next week, and we may not. Thank you, Jimmy. We'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.
Have a good one, buddy.
Now, let's grab a word from our sponsors. The year was 1953 when one of the true pioneers of big game fishing just hung it up. No, it wasn't any of us. It was none other than Ernest Hemingway. I just don't want to do it anymore, he's credited with saying. The tackle has become so sophisticated, the fish just don't have a chance. Can you imagine walking him through the aisles of either of the Strike Zone fishing locations and showing him the latest and greatest from Shimano? Can you imagine handing him a Saragossa spinner that weighed less than his bait and could put more torque on a rampaging tuna than the giant old reels of his day? Now, Ernest, my friend, I'm afraid you left us way too early. The fights with great fish still go on today, and we still sometimes get beat. But if I were a sea monster of your day, I think I'd rather do battle with you than face the tools that Shimano has stocked in the Strike Zone shelves some 68 years later. Our thanks to Captain Jim Ross for a great East Central report. Now, pull on down to my favorite little fishing village, Stuart, Florida, and check in with one Captain John Earhart. John, how are you?
I'm good. Glad to be here, Rick.
Good. Glad to have you. What's going on in Stuart?
Let's talk offshore. It's been a little choppy, but, it's summertime. We got 2 foot seas on average, so we can get out there almost any day of the week when we want to. The sail fishing has kind of tapered off a little bit. I'm still expecting to see like a couple sailfish flags a trip when I'm going out there. we're not seeing 10 or 15 like we were a couple weeks ago, but there's still plenty of sailfish around. Expect 1 and 2s when you go out, next couple weeks. There's been some nice blackfin tuna still in the mix. That's been in about 150 feet of water. A lot of small schoolie dolphins around in the shallower stuff, 70 to 150. This time of year, I typically envision mahi in shallow, like 70, 80 feet,
Right.
or way out deep, like 1,800 feet of water. If I'm going after big bull dolphins, I generally am going to chug way out to like 1,000, 2,000 feet of water and find a good grass line, and that's typically where you're going to get your bigger mahi, especially in June, first part of July.
Okay. What have you heard from the bottom fishing? The mangrove snapper fishing was pretty good when last time I was there.
Yeah, the snapper fishing's been phenomenal. Catching a lot of big mangroves. I've seen a couple caught that honestly looked close to 12, 15 pounds. I didn't weigh them, so I don't know that they were that big, but they looked massive.
That's good ones.
Most of those fish are being caught Stewart to Fort Pierce, and we're getting a lot of muttons right now too. I see guys are catching limits of muttons, and they're nice fish. 6, 10 pounders. Seen a couple that might go as big as 15, 18 pounds, but they're averaging 6 to 10 pounds right now. So if you're catching 5 of those, you got plenty to eat when you go home.
That is some great fishing. There's no doubt about that. Those are great numbers. John, I was down there recently, and I think that school of thread fins that was on the bull shark barge may be one of the bigger schools I've ever seen. Are they still there?
Yeah, we got plenty of thread fins around right now at the bull shark, some cigar minnows. There's been a real big wad of pilchards in there too. There's some sardines out on the deeper reefs and wrecks. So you got plenty of bait fish to choose from. It just depends on what bait you want to pick. If you want the thread fins, I'd go to the bull shark. If you want sardines, you might try out a little bit deeper. You're going to have to mark them down a little further in the water column. But those are excellent baits for shellfish, mahi, tuna, and especially kingfish. If you want to go catch kingfish and muttons, sardines hard to beat right now.
Can't say no to a sardine. That's a great report. What are you hearing from the inshore? The snook biting?
Yeah, catching a lot of really big snook right now near the inlet. These fish are close to 40 inches, if not over. So if you want to catch a trophy snook, head out to the St. Lucie Inlet. It's pretty much a guarantee if you got live bait. Some nice tarpon around, both along the beach and up in the river. A lot of jack crevalles, some snapper, a few flounder, an occasional redfish here and there, but the main focus right now is going to be trophy snook and, medium to large size tarpon.
Gotcha. That's a great report. John, I'm sorry to see that sailfish bite slow down. I got a piece of it and finished up my grandsons. Now all my grandsons have caught them, and I'm awfully proud of that. But it was a great bite while it lasted. Hopefully it'll come back on a little bit on the full moon in July, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. If it's all right with you, Cap, we'll check in with you next week.
Yes, sir. I'll talk to you next week.
I appreciate it so much, Captain John. Captain John Earhart from Stewart, Florida. Captain Allen and all of our action spotters are brought to you each and every week by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. By Shimano, bringing people and nature together. By Tournament Master Chum, the best chum on earth. By Nosara Paradise Rentals, your dream billfish hotspot. By DOA Lures, the unfair advantage. And by Young Boats. You want the finest in flat span offshore hybrids? You need to check out youngboats.com. Now let's hop on down to Miami and find out what's going on South Beach with the mayor himself, Captain Alan Sherman. Alan, how are you?
I'm doing fine, Rick. How are you?
I'm doing good. I want to hear about your fishing. Last week, you had a few mahis showing up.
Well, there's not that many around right now. I don't know. I guess they zipped on by us and kept on going. But, they're scattered out there. Lots and lots of sargasso weed, and you'd think with all the weeds there'd be a lot more fish. But there's some out there to fish for, though. You just have to put your time in. A lot of small fish, a few, lifters, heavy lifters, but no gaffing size fish, and they are scattered. It's hard to troll the, any kind of a bait, whether it be an artificial, unless it's weedless, or a natural bait. You just have to run and gun and look for birds. try and find some birds, and then pitch out some cut baits or a live bait if you can get it. That's one of the big problems we have right now in Miami. That there just isn't a lot of live bait fish available. We've got some ballyhoo around, but no pilchards to speak of.
I've heard that, Alan, and I'm not sure what's up. There's pogies in Jacksonville, but there's none on the beach down around Canaveral and Melbourne and that area. Then you get on further down south, and the thread fins and the pilchards in Stewart are as thick as I've ever seen them. But you guys have got a void of them, huh?
We do have a void. It seems like when the pilchards are thick in here, all the guys from further north come down to, the people that catch bait and sell bait. We see dozens of these guys in our area, and there's nobody here really. There's no bait boats selling bait because they just can't find any.
Wow.
So artificials have to be what you're using, or, you can buy some fresh, frozen ballyhoo or Spanish sardines and try to make the best out of that. But really what the guys are doing right now is they're bottom fishing, and the bottom fishing's been pretty good. The mutton snappers are still biting over the wrecks and the deeper rocky ledges, outside of the outside reef. Some of the best wrecks that are producing fish are in 120 feet on out to about 240, I'd say. And the current's not too bad. It's been fishable. It's always good to have a current, especially a north current seems to be when the fish bite the best. But you want that water moving a little bit so that it stretches that leader out, makes it easier to present the bait and field strike. A few black groupers still being caught on the wrecks, but the nighttime fishing on the reefs has been really good. The mangrove snappers have started to spawn, and this will last probably into August. The only thing that stops you from catching too many is a 5-fish limit on mangrove snappers, and then the currents that we get during the summer, which can be pretty strong. But there's quite a few mangroves, yellowtails mixed in with them, a few mutton snappers as well. But that's the best bet I think we have going right now is the nighttime bottom fishing.
Gotcha. Well, that doesn't sound bad at all. I got to tell you, it's just been such a funky year offshore. I've made the point that I'm not sure we've seen a windier first 6 months out of the year than we have this year.
I'm a bay fisherman, but I do like to go offshore when I can. And I haven't been offshore in 4 months, maybe. Yeah,
it
seems like that day when the wind doesn't blow, that's the day I'm not on the water.
Yep. Gotcha. All right, Cap, as always, we appreciate it so much. We look forward to talking with you next week, if that's okay.
Sure it is. Look for it and see you next week.
Thank you, Captain Allen. All right, thanks to Captain Alan Sherman for a great Miami report. Now we get to go to Kokomo, down to Islamorada to Bud and Mary's to check in with none other than the captain of the broad-minded, one Nick Stanczyk. Nick, how are you?
We're doing good. How are you?
Good. I know fishing's got to be great in Islamorada. It's summertime, for crying out loud.
Well, fishing's always good. The catching's the tricky part.
That's correct. What you been catching?
I got out a handful of days the past week. We got two swordfish. The first couple of days I fished 1 each trip, up to about 90 pounds.
Okay.
I had a few dolphin as well. And then we fished one day and we missed a couple of swords. Only had 4 little mahi all day. And then next thing I know, we're dropping the swordfish bait down about 600 feet down. A white marlin comes up jumping, so we cut a white marlin on a swordfish bait.
How about that?
Surprise.
I saw that. What size was that white? He looked like he was pretty healthy.
It was pretty good. I haven't caught too many in my whole life, just a few here and a handful of others in other spots, but I think I had to be close to 60 pounds or something.
That's exactly what I thought. Yeah. Congratulations on that.
Caught some more mahi on the way home, so we ended on a good note. And then this weekend we had a heartbreaker, fought a big sword, like a 300-pounder for almost 2 hours. Thought we were going to get him and the hook pulled, but the good news was we still had plenty of dolphin and blackfin tuna. Then the last trip I got out on, we had a couple of nice dolphins, had a nice bull that was about 25 pounds, a couple of gaffer cows in that 15-pound range. Then some more speed. A lot of dolphin, quite a few tunas, and a couple swords, a couple days, and a couple days of no swords.
Gotcha. Well, sword fishing is never a guarantee, but you make it as close as anybody in the country. I can promise you that. That's a great report. Have you heard anything from the backcountry at all?
I did. There's been quite a few snook caught. There's been some little redfish, a few tarpon. The tarpon bite hasn't been great, but my brother did have one tarpon the other day. And there's been some triple tails, so they're still having action back there.
Gotcha. Okay. Nick, thanks so much. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
I'm going on vacation. I'll be gone for a couple of weeks, but we'll get back in touch in a couple of weeks, all right?
Good for you. Where are you off to?
We're going to go through the Bahamas and down to Turks and Caicos.
That ain't bad, Cap. That's outstanding. Congratulations on that. We will get along the best we can without your forecast for the next couple of weeks, and I can't wait to hear your stories when you get back.
Sounds good, Rick. Thanks.
Thank you, Nick. Captain Nick Stanczyk from the Broad-Minded out of Bud and Mary's in Alamorada. Our thanks to Captain Nick Stanczyk for a great Alamorada report. A white marlin to Nick's credit. That's outstanding. White marlin have never been prevalent anywhere, but they seem to be coming back a little bit. I know the last couple of years that I fished the Bahamas, we certainly had more of them, and now I'm hearing more of them off the coast here. That has to be good news. Let's pull around to where they never catch white marlin in 10,000 Islands and check in with our buddy Steve Dahl. Steve, how are you?
I'm doing good. Just out looking for that white marlin.
Any white marlin down that way, Steve?
No, not a single one. That's for sure. That's for sure.
What are you catching?
It's been pretty good, actually. You know, we kind of lost our redfish bite there for a while with those high water temps, but last week we really just didn't get a lot of sun, so it really, combined that with, daily rainfall in the afternoons, and it really dropped the water temp and seemed to really get the redfish fired up the last few days, and kind of anticipating that lasting, a little bit here. And, they're not bunched up by any means, but, if you kind of make a milk run of your, traditional spots, find some current, and they're up against the mangroves this time of year. And, the nice part about that is if you're not getting bit within 5 minutes, you move. Mm-hmm. So, we're catching, some nice fish, some definitely, lower 30-inch class fish, on the high side, and, plenty of fish in the, low to mid 20s. So redfish are kind of fired up with everything going on with, all that influx of fresh water and the drop in water temp. So, that's pretty good. And kind of coupled with them, both inshore and near shore, has been the mangrove snapper bite. And it's been, while that's not such a huge, glorious, fish for us on the, traditional backcountry fish for us, they're abound, and they're 90% of them are keepers. And boy, if you want to make some quick table fare, that's the way to go. And you really don't even have to leave the backcountry to do it. They're kind of mixed in with the redfish, the snook, and they're just kind of in that mix. So it's you can make short order of those pretty quick. So if you got some novice anglers, you just want some some table fare, that's kind of the route to go. To be able to get some of those.
Let me tell you what, that has been the fish of the week in Florida this week, all the way from Jacksonville down through Stewart, around to your side, everywhere. Everybody's catching mangrove snapper.
That's weird.
Yeah. It is. I don't know. I mean, it's a banner year for them, and I'm certainly glad to see it because I can think of some other fish that have not exactly been bannered this year, but that's okay. What are you hearing from the offshore guys? I mean, obviously they're still catching red snapper, I would think.
Yeah, red snapper on the days you can get out, and that's the key. We're kind of hitting this, another batch of this wind again. So it's on the days that you can get out, they're certainly getting them, and they're kind of pushing off that closer range that I've been talking about the last 2 weeks, and they're really holding on that 80-mile mark. You really got to run for them right now, and
wow,
that can be challenging. And to make that type of commitment to go out there, especially with the volatility of the weather, you better know what you're doing. I don't mean to sound blunt, but that is not for the faint of heart. You cannot be that far from shore, and I always talk about it. Our coast is so inherently different than other parts of Florida. I mean, you literally have to go halfway to Texas to get in true pelagic water, and it's a commitment. And, please exercise caution. Even if you're going on someone else's boat, while that might be a friend, make sure they have all the right stuff on their boat. Make sure they have an e-permit. Make sure that's not insulting to ask those things, better be safe than sorry. Everybody's got somebody to go home to. And so just heed a little caution if you're going to make those runs. The fish are there. There's no doubt about it. A little bit closer to shore, we're starting to see still really good red grouper bite. You don't have to do, it's only about half that, 25 to 30 miles, you're into those pretty consistently. The permit bite's still been very good, albeit they're pushing a little farther offshore, more in that 20 to 25 mark. We had such a banner, May and June with permit on the near shore side, stuff up to probably 9 to 15 miles. I think they just got so pressured.
Right.
They've just pushed farther out, but they're still there, and there's some really big fish to be caught. So red grouper and permit kind of in that mid offshore range, I like to call it. So definitely, you just got to pick and choose your days. That's it. You got to be smart.
Yep.
Just that simple.
Yep. Good advice. Good advice. I tell you, I don't think it's just me. I got to tell you, Steve, I think this is the windiest first half of a year that I can remember seeing.
Yeah, it really is. And, there's no doubt. I mean, I talked to, quite a few people all over the state. Everyone's kind of got the same thing. In our area, we're a little blessed that we have, not quite 10,000 islands to be able to get out of the wind. But, we do have, unlike a lot of places in Florida, we have a lot of areas that we can get out of the wind. However, it still has its effects, it puts a lot of siltation on the water. It erodes shorelines. It really does a number. But I just, I know the guys that are tried and true going offshore. That's probably the most frustrating year that anybody's ever had. And we're kind of blessed that we kind of do both, inshore and offshore trips. Right. And, but the reality is, the offshore guys are just really hurting, even just recreation guys. It's really frustrating, when you're handed, only so many days a year that you can get out there, and, half of those are getting crushed by wind. I don't know what to make of it. It's a lot of unseasonable weather this year too. I mean,
yeah, and I don't know if it's a long-term trend. Is it climate change, or is it just luck of the draw? And next year will be calm all spring, and I don't begin to know the answer to that.
Yeah, I don't either. And the more people I talk to are, at the very least, are all in agreement that it's. I don't know what you've heard and talking to the rest of the guys, but the reality is, I'm certainly seeing it. Sounds like you are for sure. Mm-hmm. I don't know what it is. I really don't know enough about it.
Yep. Nope. Me neither. But, that's above my pay grade.
It's definitely blowing. That's for sure.
Yeah. Cap, we appreciate it as always. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
Oh, I can't wait, Rick.
You got it. Thanks so much, Steve. We appreciate it. Captain Steve Dahl down in 10,000 Islands. Now let's go up the coast just a little ways to Captain Greg Stamper from Snook Stamp Charters. Greg, how are you?
I'm doing very well today, Rick. How are you doing?
Good. I understand you got a belly full of ribs, so you ought to be doing well.
I will have a belly full of ribs very soon. You got that right. I need that after this hard work of fishing that we've done all week, so it's all good for me. And I can tell you one thing. I'm a little bit happy that I wasn't the offshore guys this week, because they had a little bit of sporty weather, but the guys who did get out there still got it done. They did very well. We saw some red snapper this week again that were up in that 20-pound range, and those are good fish for us down here. The cool part is a lot of those guys that went out there also ran into a lot of those other pelagics, like those tuna are still out there. And I did hear one or two guys that jumped a few sailfish here and there, but Rick, as you like sailfish, they kind of like it when it's 40.
You know how many of them I liked last week? Would you like to
Go
know?
ahead.
I did a dozen last week.
A dozen? You got a dozen?
I did 5 in one day. I was happy.
Oh,
yep.
Good for you. That's awesome, man.
My grandsons. I've got 9 grandsons, and every last one of them has now stuck a tag in a sailfish. I'm proud of all of them.
That's exactly what I was going to ask you. Was it your? That's awesome. That's fantastic. That's great to hear, man. They're going to be stuck on that for life.
I hope so. I hope so. I hope
they will be.
I hope when they're at my funeral, they can see their fishtail walking. That's exactly what I want for them.
That's right. Absolutely.
What are you hearing from inshore, Greg? How's your snook fishing?
Oh man, I tell you what, the snook fishing has been good. We did have a little slower tide situation a couple times when I would have liked to have had them on there, and then when the tide got going good, we had a lot of we had a lot of jet skiers running around, kind of messing some things up. But we were still able to catch some nice quality fish. I didn't catch anything this week that was over 33, 34 inches, but a lot of fish between that 22, 23 inch range all the way up to that 33 or so, which is really nice to see. Red fishing did slow down a bit. Trout fishing continues to be really good, which is really a positive thing after everything that we suffered the previous years. And quite honestly, the tarpon fishing has not slowed down at all. I'm going to have to stop going after these big ones soon because I'm going to be full speed 100% waking up early in the morning here on these next couple of months for those juveniles as the rain has set itself in, and that's going to flush everything out into our bays.
Yep. But you're still getting the juvies now, right?
They're available. We haven't had a real good piece of bait that we can go after. So there's pinfish available right now in the smaller size. This is what I would use for those juveniles. But the white bait along our beaches hasn't really been all that great. It's been a lot of small stuff. I just keep looking at its size saying, I'll be back for you in 3 weeks, brother.
You know, it's funny, Greg, all down the East Coast, I've heard the same thing. I've heard a complaint of lack of bait. There's not pogies on the beach like there should be. There's not pilchards on the reefs. Now, Stewart notwithstanding, Stewart's holding some of the biggest schools of threadfins I've ever seen. But, man, I tell you what, I'm a little concerned about, of course, I always got to worry about something, but I'm a little concerned about our bait situation.
Well, we have it, Rick. It's there. It's small, though.
Okay.
It's nothing I would throw my net on. You know what I'm saying? I would get Christmas treat if I did right now. But we did have a very late cold front this year when we had tons of bait. We were all so happy that we had all this bait here, and then all of a sudden it just disappeared. So it probably pushed itself offshore. There is a lot of small bait right now, and I guarantee, Rick, in about 2 or 3 weeks, I'm not going to have any problems catching me that nice white bait that I want.
You know, I may or may not know a story about a new, very brash young charter boat captain that came into our marina. Hey, Greg, do you have a cleaning table at your marina?
Oh yeah, absolutely, 2 of them.
Oh, okay. What lives under your cleaning table?
Well, where I'm at, we got 100 million catfish.
Okay, see, therein lies the problem, because I may or may not have told that certain brash young charter boat captain that those were mullet, and throw that 8-foot net right under the cleaning table. And,
no.
I might have done that.
No.
Oh,
no,
yes.
no, Rick.
Oh, yes.
No.
I'm not a nice person, Greg. I mean, I try to be, but I'm just not a nice person.
That's great stuff. I do remember a few people that I know, including myself, in the years where I thought I had a bunch of bait below my boat through my net. Guess what happened? About 30 catfish. That thing.
That's nasty. And you ain't going to get them out without getting hurt. I promise you that's going to happen.
Oh, no. And your net's tore to hell. Forget about it.
That could be. There. It's good and slimy anyway. You can count on that. Cap, as always, we appreciate the heck out of it, and I hope that bait grows up fast for you. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
Absolutely. Tight lines, Rick. Have a good night.
Thank you, Greg. Greg Stamper from Snook Charters. Now let's work our way up the coast and find out what Ray Markham's up to in the West Central area. Raymond, how are you?
Wet.
Yeah, I understand that. Been a little bit of rain.
Yeah, a little bit of rain. We've had a lot of afternoon thunderstorms and squalls moving through that have pretty much put a damper on things, so to speak. A few of them have chased us off the water, but if you can get in some fishing just before it or a little bit after it, usually the fishing can be pretty good. So not complaining.
All right.
The rain.
All right. Now, everything in your area, right? Are you still all released, or do you have? Can you keep a trout in the red now that June 1st has come?
Depends on where I'm fishing. North of the Manatee River, we're pretty much open. South of the Manatee River, you're obviously snook's closed, but also redfish is closed, and they have further limits on trout south of it. But everything else north of it is pretty open. So in Tampa Bay North, we're all good.
What's the red tide situation?
Well, it's still pretty much the same as it was last week. There's a few areas that are popping up that are a little bit stronger in concentration, but other areas are they're saying they're clean. And talking to a few guys down south, actually, Rick Grassett, Scott Moore, some of those guys down there, they've been having some pretty good days trout fishing, and tarpon is improving and everything else. So, and believe it or not, I mean, Sarasota Bay is free and clear of red tide from what we're seeing. So, of all the samplings. So, things are a little better, even though they got some closed season down there for redfish and all. But still, they're not putting the numbers of redfish up like they used to. So, it's a good thing that it's still kind of waiting for what's coming out here with FWC. They've got the reports due sometime before the end of the year for both redfish and snook, and those will be the status on the species as a whole, and basically they'll decide at that point what they're doing with restrictions as far as limits, bag and size limits. So that's the story with that. But you know, guys are doing pretty darn good offshore. I mean, still, it's just been banner trips out there in the Gulf, anywhere from about 80 feet on. And they've had Hubbard's Marine has been bringing in some boatloads of fish with a red grouper, gag grouper, basically 4 or 5 different kinds of grouper, actually at least 4 kinds of grouper. Lots of red snapper, mangrove snapper, big mangoes coming off that last full moon. And fishing's been really good offshore from what I can gather. The guys inshore way up the bay, they're catching Spanish mackerel, they're catching mangrove snapper, so not too many complaints around. I mean, if you work hard enough and put enough time on the water, you're going to find fish. So just a matter of doing it.
Well, that's outstanding. That's an excellent report. Let me tell you something. If you think the state is a mess to work with when it comes to some of these management measures, try the feds, brother. Come over here to the East Coast and try and sell our fishermen on the fact we're going to have a 3-day red snapper season.
Right. I've been to a few of those meetings, and you know, I usually walk with my jaw on the floor, and it's like, what?
Yep.
So,
common sense is nowhere around.
Yeah, buddy.
All right, Ray. Listen, we appreciate the great report so much. Can we check in with you next week?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
I'll
buddy.
be the wet one.
You got it. Captain Ray Markham from the West Central region. Now, we're going to move on up and check in with our buddy Captain Kevin Lanier. But first, let's have a word from our sponsor. Yes, it is finally getting hot, and I do mean hot. And, of course, that means the water is warming up. And just like the great fish always do, the biggest and the baddest of so many species that we fish for will soon be holding in deeper water in an attempt to cool off. Well, you name it. If it feeds deeper in the water column, it can't refuse the DOA Terrorize. It dives straight down and crawls across the bottom with an action that no deep feeder can resist. Whether it's a crappie deep under some lily pads or a tarpon rooting around a bridge piling, DOA makes a size and color Terrorize that they just can't say no to. Flashing that big bright eye in front of any bottom-feeding game fish is just unfair. Maybe that's why they call DOA lures the unfair advantage.
You know what Yamaha Outboards love? The genuine formula and consistency of Yamalu marine engine oils. Outboards are subjected to punishing conditions like high loads, salt, and humidity, a mix that automotive oils can't handle. Yamalu full synthetic and marine performance formulas are certified to protect against friction and corrosion for reliable performance every time. Find Yamalu marine oils at your nearest Yamaha Outboard dealer. Locate them at yamahaaoutboards.com/dealers. Yamaha, reliability starts here.
Hey, Raj, you know, being consistent is a mark of a quality product. If you've been Florida's #1 chum for over 10 years, there's got to be a reason.
For 10 years, Tournament Master Chum has lived up to his name. That's why more tournament pros insist on Tournament Master than any other chum. It's the only chum with Menhaden milk mixed right in. That means it gets the scent out faster and deeper than any other brand of chum. It comes in a grind size for every species from kingfish to catching bait. Your fishing time is way too precious to you second-rate chum. Bring the action to you by insisting on Tournament Master chum. It's worth every penny.
When you're ready for the finest in custom-made flat spay or inshore-offshore hybrids, you are ready to meet the Young family in Inglis, Florida. For over 21 years, the Young family has built custom boats one at a time for every type of fishing. Nothing can sneak up on a flat quite like the Gulf Shore flats boats, and I've never fished a better hybrid than the Young 24s and 27s. Rob Young is a naval architect who takes tremendous pride in each and every build for each and every customer that wants their boat custom built exactly the way they want it. Is it time for you to move up? Are you ready to own the finest boat built? Then you need to visit the Young Boat Facility in Inglis, Florida, or check them out online at youngboats.com. Our thanks to Ray Markham for a great West Central report. Now let's hop up into Northwest Florida and find out how the Red Snapper King himself is doing. One Kevin Lanier from KC Sport Fishing. How we doing, Kevin?
Hey, Captain Rick, we're doing pretty good tonight, although I'm kind of feeling rode hard, put up wet after that Gulf condition we were in today.
Little sloppy, was it?
Oh, steady 4 to 6s outside of 20 miles. So, yeah, it was ugly.
Yep, that's sloppy. Kevin, and you're one of the guys I really wanted to ask about this because you spend so much time offshore. Kevin, I know I've said this before, and next year I'll probably say it again, but I swear this is the windiest first 6 months to the year I can ever remember.
You know, Captain Rick, we said the exact same thing last year.
Yeah.
And we talked about the spring, and we talked about being the wettest. We had the wettest winter we thought we've had in anybody can remember. And the wind, I mean, we've had east wind for the last 5 days, and we have really gotten beat up out there trying to get people out snapper fishing. I actually canceled one yesterday because I thought it was too much. And but I mean, who knows? I mean, I guess history will tell.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, yes, A, I am getting old, but B, it just, man, I can't remember when an old charter boat captain out of Jacksonville used to tell me, if you're going to be in the charter business in Jacksonville, you're going to make money from Memorial Day to Labor Day. Well, Memorial Day was a long time ago now. And let me tell you what, it's been windy just about ever since. I mean, we're in prime season where we should be looking at 76, slick, calm, and sunny, and it just hadn't happened.
Oh, you're right. I mean, like I said, we've had 5 days of east wind, and it's really kicked our butts. And we had the tropical storm, and it seems like one thing after another. We got a good opener over here, but ever since then, it's kind of been downhill weather-wise.
But your snapper is still biting.
Oh, yeah. The full moon kind of threw them off a little bit, but we're getting them. Today we had a great day out there. We actually got 2 red grouper, and we weighed them when we got in. They were 21 and 24 pounds.
Woo!
I was tickled to death.
That's some big old pudding heads there. That's some good ones.
No, that's a fire truck for sure. We put 2 kings on the boat, too, probably in the upper 20s, and a load of red snapper. So we had a good day in spite of the sea conditions.
Yes, you did. Have you heard anything from the inshore guys in your area?
Are people fishing inshore this time of year?
Yeah, it's pretty hot. Yeah,
it's pretty hot. Not a lot of reports. I mean, really, we're not getting a lot because so many of the guys are fishing offshore right now, especially on the guide side of things. The snapper bite, as it always does as we get into July, kind of slows down in the shallower waters. Mm-hmm. They are getting some triple-tailed guys that can get out, but most of those guys that fish those kind of religiously, it's starting to get it's even too rough for them to get out.
Yeah, it's been tough, no doubt about it. But next week's on the horizon. Looks to me like we're in for a little better weather stretch. I think that'll be the case for us. So let's keep an eye on it. You still got plenty of red snapper season left. Thank goodness for you guys. Anyway, as you've heard, I'm sure we get a whopping 3 days this year. Which is,
I've got 4 days off between now and the end of July.
Whoo, buddy, you'll be glad to see August 1st come.
the old saying, too much of a good thing is not a good thing,
Yeah,
but we're enjoying it right now.
Yep. Well, I'm going to the bank with you on August 1st. I need some of that. All right, Cap. I appreciate it. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
Lord willing, the creek don't rise. We'll be back.
Thanks, Captain Kevin. We'll talk to you next week, buddy. All right, thanks to Kevin Lanier for a great Northwest report. Now, you can't leave Florida till you got in the Panhandle. Boy, I'm glad to hear the voice of one Tyler Massey. That means everybody survived the storm okay over there. You guys doing all right, Tyler?
Oh, yeah, we're doing good over here.
Good. What'd you lose, a couple days to it?
Yeah, so we lost, I think we lost about 5 days from the wind. It just never really let up. And, it's definitely been rough for us a lot, this month, a lot rougher than normal, seems like.
No doubt. How's your fishing?
Fishing's been great when we get out there. Offshore, our red snapper season's still going on, so that's a main target for a lot of people, heading out in the Gulf. It's fishing's still, pretty good for them. It hasn't really slowed down too much. It's, might be better to start focusing on some of the smaller spots and, bumping your tackle down just a little bit, but there's still plenty of nice fish out there.
You make an excellent point, Tyler. As the pressure increases, I've always said that great fishing makes for sloppy fishermen, and I think once the pressure gets to them a little bit, like it's bound to do with the number of boats on your local reefs there, you just got to get a little more tactful, don't you? You got to drop that tackle down, make that leader a little lighter, break out that fluorocarbon.
Yep, that's definitely the way to do it. I mean, it really goes for any kind of fishing. Once fish start, feel the pressure, you just got to change your tactics just a little bit, and you can be just as productive.
Mm-hmm. Got it. All right. What have you heard besides red snapper?
So, inshore fishing, it's been pretty good. If you're going to be, targeting inshore species, redfish, trout, that kind of stuff, it's better right now to go early morning, late afternoon. Fishing on the grass plots for the trout's been pretty good. But the middle of the day bite's been pretty slow just because, it's getting hotter, and it's just how stuff goes for the summertime. So, even docklight fishing at nighttime's been pretty good right now. So, speckled trout and redfish, just, early and late. Live shrimp if you can get them. If not, artificials like gulp shrimp, mirror lure, mirrodines, DOAs, that kind of stuff, all has been working pretty good.
Well, I got to tell you, some of the minnow imitations that we're seeing now, and you mentioned mirrodine, and it stood right out to me. Golly, are we ever seeing the next generation of artificial lures? You can hardly tell the difference to look at them.
Yeah, I know. It's there's so many lures that work so great these days, and it's just it's kind of hard to pick at what you want to throw sometimes.
Yep, you're exactly right. Well, that's a great report, and I'm counting on hopefully the wind will lay down a little bit more for you guys, and you get more of your snapper season in. Certainly glad to see it come about for you anyway. Tyler, please tell me we can check in with you next week.
I'll be here.
Captain Tyler Massey. Hey, that wraps up our trip around the state this week, and it's been interesting. I was struck by the lack of bait that we heard about in so many locations. Off Jacksonville, it really hasn't been a problem. Off Stewart, it really hasn't been a problem. But man, you talk about East Central and down in Miami, those guys are dying for bait. Even down in the Keys, it's been hard. The other thing that really struck me about this week was mangrove snapper everywhere. Now, they spawn in the summertime, and they usually spawn the full moon in June, and that may be the reason why. But other than that, I think our mangrove snapper numbers are just up. I know inshore they've been getting them. Now, those aren't spawning fish. Those fish are barely 12 inches long. But the numbers have been tremendous. Offshore, they've been great. Gosh, I heard of a boat off northeast Florida that caught 50 big mangroves the other night. That was a boat, of course, with enough passengers to where they stayed within the limit. But that's tremendous, tremendous fishing. And as we get into summertime, those fish are only going to get better on the next full moon, which will happen in July. But there's one thing you can count on. We'll be touring the state again next week and finding out what's going on in the world of fishing. Our trip around the state this week and every week is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. By Shimano, bringing people and nature together. By Tournament Master Chum, the best chum on earth. By Nosara Paradise Rentals, your dream billfish trip. By DOA Lures, the unfair advantage. And by Young Boats. You want the finest in flat span offshore hybrids? You need to check out youngboats.com. Until next week, for Florida Sportsman Action Spotter Podcast, I'm Captain Rick Riles, and we will see you on the ring.